All right, let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. So in this video, I want to talk about 3 reasons why Africa is a great place to do business. Now, before I jump into this video, I want to clarify something. Africa is a big continent. It's the largest continent in the world. 54 plus countries. So when I say Africa, I'm not talking about the entire continent. So don't be ignorant, okay? So what I'm talking about is if you focus on specific regions, and I'm an expert in doing business in East Africa and Southern Africa. I'm not an expert in North or West. But some of these concepts I'm about to tell you will be applicable in most of the regions in Africa. I do understand with 54 countries, not every country is going to be perfect to do business in. My advice when you're doing business here in Africa, before I jump into the 3 points, is to focus on Africa as regional opportunities. Look at the opportunities from a regional perspective. That's how you win in this game. That's how you really, really win in this game. And let me explain to you why before I jump into the 3 points. If you only focus on doing your business in one country, you will completely miss the mark because you can get jammed up if the laws or something happens chaotic in that country. For example, I'm in the country of Tanzania right now, recording this video. And there's so many people that have only been doing their business here in the country of Tanzania. And we all know what happened if you go to the news and you understand that we just had a political unrest here in this country. And that affected business. A lot of businesses were affected and were losing money. But if you are diversified, what that means is if you had the same business operating in Kenya and Uganda, you can offset the losses that you're making here in Tanzania to Kenya and Uganda until you recover what's going on in Tanzania, until Tanzania recovers. As somebody that has lived in the U.S. for 25 years, it's a hard thing to adjust, because in the United States it feels like a bunch of different countries, those states, Texas, Florida, New York. It feels like a bunch of countries, but they're all affected by the overall situation of the country of the U.S. But that's not the case here in Africa. If the laws change, if something happens in one country, that does not affect the neighboring country as much. You can discover that there could be a complete war in the Congo, but right next door to the Congo, there's Rwanda, which is thriving. In fact, Rwanda right now is one of the best places to do business. But right next door is the Congo, and there's chaos over there. So when you're looking at Africa and investing in Africa or doing business here, do your very best to look at it from a regional perspective. That's what I wanted to say. From the regional perspective. By the way, this is not an edited video. It's going to sound like a lie, but it's not. I don't have enough time to edit, so that's why we're just going to keep pushing through it. Look at Africa, doing business in Africa from a regional perspective. So that means pick a collection of countries that you're comfortable doing business in. Let us say you're French speaking and you wanted to do business in West Africa. The ideal is to say, all right, I am from Burkina Faso. Maybe let me do business with Niger, and let me do some business in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. Those 3. Just dominate those 3 only. Or maybe you are from Ghana. Say, okay, I want to do business in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin. Okay? Or Senegal. Something like that. So be regional like that. So that if anything goes down in, God forbid, anything goes down in Burkina Faso, for example, and we don't want that to happen, we want to pray about it, that peace prevails. Even here in Tanzania, we pray for peace as well. If anything goes down in any one place, you can feel the shifts. You're out of there. You're out. Because there's something that I experienced by being here in Tanzania is that I knew the election was coming, but I was not prepared as much as I should have been. Fortunately, my business is, it's not only uh, here in Tanzania. I have businesses outside of Tanzania, US, Zimbabwe, Zambia. So I'm able to operate in different countries, Kenya as well. What I'm saying is I've diversified myself so that even though things went down here in Tanzania, I was not as affected as somebody that only operates here in Tanzania. So here are the 3 reasons why I believe Africa is still an amazing place to do business, despite the political chaos that's happening, because it's all temporary. Tanzania is going to recover anyway, like most countries. Most countries always recover after turmoil. So don't look at it and say, oh, this is going to be forever. Don't look at it that way, because this place will recover. Reason number 1, the cost of labor. The cost of labor here is so affordable, and the quality of employees can be high depending on how you're hiring and where you're getting your talent from. The Chinese are discovering that the cost of labor is actually going up. I mentioned this in my previous video, and I said, for a long time, for 25 years, the Chinese have been serving the Americans, producing goods for the Americans. So the Chinese got rich, relatively. And there were so many Chinese that were in poverty that were elevated to the middle class over the last 25 years. As they got elevated to the middle class, they started demanding better wages, higher wages. And a lot of these business owners in China could not afford to pay higher wages because they needed to keep their wages low in order for them to produce cheap enough goods to service the Americans who are consumers. So now, the Chinese will not accept, say, $5 an hour anymore. In fact, they want $10 an hour. Because $10 an hour in China is pretty significant money. But back then, because there was poverty, right? 30 years ago, there was poverty over there. People could take $5 an hour. Wages were so suppressed like that. They were so desperate they would take $5 an hour. But that's not the case here in Africa, you see. The same quality employee that is demanding $10 an hour in China will only ask for $5 an hour here in Africa. Depending on where you are. I'm using the example of East Africa right now as a region. This means Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. If you're paying somebody $5 an hour, that's a decent wage. Somebody can eat, even somebody with their family can eat. So if they're working, let's say, even 5 hours. 5 hours at $5 an hour, that's $25 a day. Listen, $25 a day, especially here in the country of Tanzania, that's a pretty good amount of money because food is cheap, cost of living is cheap. So somebody can survive over that. Even somebody that's got kids, somebody's got family, if you can believe that, it's crazy how affordable it is. That was China back in the day. So what Africa is now is where China was 30 years ago. It doesn't mean that everybody here is poor. That's not the case. There's still a growing middle class, which is point number 2, is there's a new growing middle class here. This is the biggest misconception that foreigners, especially propaganda that's been around for 20, 30 years, it's still ongoing. It's crazy. Africa is a completely different place if you come here. The middle class is growing. And in fact, some of the fastest growing economies in the world are here in Africa. So that means there's a middle class that is growing. Not only is this middle class growing, they all got kids. They got babies. It's to the point where I think I need to do a video on a business idea that I think some of you guys will be interested in, which is getting into the clothing business for kids. That's huge business. Huge. There's this young lady, she's in her 20s. Me and my wife will hang out in the market because we like to go to the market all the time just to, do our shopping, buy fresh fruits and veg and everything. So I saw in the market there was this lady who was selling clothes, and I approached her and I said, "Hey, listen, these are kids' clothes. Where did you get them from?" She told me all she had to do was go to the port of Dar es Salaam, purchase a container full of kids' clothes, shipping container full of kids' clothes. Maybe she paid, I don't know, like $1,000 for it. And then she brought those clothes to her shop over there in the market, and she's making sales nonstop. Because people here got kids. But if you try and start that business over there, let's say in the US, people are not having kids. Toys R Us, if you guys remember Toys R Us, there's no Toys R Us anymore because people are not having kids in America. In fact, I saw in Zambia, somebody did a video about Zambia. I think it was Dawood, saying that there's a Toys R Us in Zambia. Maybe it wasn't Dawood, maybe it was somebody else. He did a video talking about there's a Toys R Us in Zambia. That's amazing. That business is gonna make it. So if you have your own version of Toys R Us in whatever country you're planning on doing business, and you're just going to China, putting together a container full of toys, opening up your shop over there in a nice neighborhood, nice area, and even if it's not a fancy neighborhood, right? Any neighborhood in Africa will do. Then you set up shop over there. You're selling kids' toys from China. You're gonna make money because there's always kids every single year. In fact, every month there's a brand new baby. Baby showers, man. Everybody, like, especially here in Tanzania, one of the things that I love is to see families. You'll see mom, dad, a bunch of kids, 3 kids, just walking, hanging out, So families are still growing here, and with population growth comes economic growth, and with economic growth comes, the middle class expanding. So that's a good market to tap into. Any idea that you will have that caters to families, like selling clothes for kids, selling toys for kids, you're gonna win. And now, especially with AI, and if you know how to brand yourself, if you know how to do your online marketing, which I can help you with, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, you can start promoting your brand. You can build a brand new brand from scratch that can compete with Toys R Us over here. If I wanted to, I can start my own version of Toys R Us or Kids R Us, where you're selling clothes and whatnot, right? Clothes for kids. And just brand it all over social media and compete with the foreign-owned companies. Because at the end of the day, Toys R Us gets all their stuff from China anyway. So why not create your own Toys R Us? You can. Nobody's stopping you. And the cost to invest in that kind of business is not very high. The barrier to entry into such a niche, selling kids' clothes, selling toys for kids, it's not very high. You can start off with as little as 5,000, even 10,000 US. If you come in with 10,000 US to start that niche, you can completely dominate with my help. Completely dominate. Oh my goodness. Within 6 months, 6 months to a year, like everybody's coming. Everybody knows exactly who you are. Number 3, last point. This is where the resources are. The game has changed, guys. Most, if not all, the resources come from Africa. The raw materials come from Africa. And they go out there to be refined in Asia, like the Chinas of the world, Bangladesh, whatever it is. For cocoa, they go get refined in like Switzerland, whatever it is. But even then, the Africans are onto the game now. The Ghanaians are saying, wait a minute, we've been exporting all this cocoa beans out there. The Americans have been getting rich, becoming billionaires. Why don't we just open up our own, like, processing plant over there and produce our own chocolate? Freaking Ghanaians are smart, man. Some of the smartest, most brilliant people I've met in the US have been Ghanaians. They knew, and they know the game. You build your own processing plant over there. In fact, I recall What Am I did a video interviewing some lady over there in Ghana. This was years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, who was making her own chocolate in Ghana. See? Because she was right next to the resources. The resources were probably like 2-3 hours away from where she was processing them. So all she had to do was drive over there, go pick up the beans, set up her own little factory to grind the beans and make her own chocolate. Come up with her own branding. Now with social media, Instagram and Facebook, you can start promoting your brand on socials and tell people exactly where they can pick it up from, which stores they can pick it up from. So from the resource extraction to production, that distance can be much shorter. Because it used to be companies like Cadbury will come in, purchase the cocoa below market rates, take it over there to whatever, the UK, process it in their own fancy factories over there. Until the Africans caught on to the game, especially the Ghanaians, brilliant minds. They're like, wait a minute. They got the equipment to process this in China. And maybe they spend $1 million. But did you know in China, you can go and get a smaller version of that equipment for like 10 grand that can do the exact same thing. Because China produces everything now when it comes to equipment. So you go to China, go find a smaller machine, maybe not 1 million, maybe 10,000. You bring it, set it up in your warehouse, a small warehouse, hire 2-3 people, train them on how to use it. You're producing. You're extracting those resources close to you. You can outcompete the foreign companies. And if you know how to brand yourself, if you know, especially now, what I love about artificial intelligence, guys, we're in an artificial intelligence revolution. If I wanted to design, and I know I can, if I wanted to design a brand of chocolate candy, all I have to do is go to ChatGPT and tell it, hey, I want to design a chocolate brand for, and this is the name of it, create a logo for me, create the packaging, and then what do I do with that? I take that concept, take it to my printer guys. Here in Tanzania, there are a bunch of guys that can print me labels. Go to them, tell them, show them the design. Hey, can you print this label? Then they'll print it out. Packaging, everything. I can do it right here. By the way, Tanzania produces cocoa beans. But I'm not quite sure exactly where, but it's not as, this is what's crazy about this country, right? There's so many surprises. I'm like, what? You produce that? Everything. Tea, coffee, everything. I didn't know that. But you got to be here on the continent to know these things. So even if I wanted to, I could technically produce my own coffee if I wanted to. In fact, that's another video I'm going to do separately to this one, where I get proposals now, business proposals from people here on the continent. The video I'm going to do is going to be about business plans. But anyway, those are the 3 reasons why Africa, regionally, right? Speaking of regions, if you want to do business in Southern Africa, pick 3 countries. Pick South Africa, maybe Zimbabwe, Botswana, and that's it. Or Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa, something like that. Then you just operate in those 3. If something goes down in South Africa, hey, you got 2 other markets to fall back to. That's how you operate in this market. And their resources. Personally, when I do business, I like to do business and include at least one country where I can extract resources at. Fortunately, I have three of them. All three countries have resources. That's what I love about them. So if you're ready to work with the best, schedule time. This means that you're ready to get the best game, because there's certain information that I cannot share here on YouTube, but I can give you that game that is more specific to your situation. So schedule time. This is a paid consultation. If you want any free game, just go watch the free videos. But if you're ready to get to the next level, you're tired of being sick and tired, and you know you gotta move on this thing and start your business, schedule time. We're gonna talk about everything. We're gonna talk about how to get into the right niche. We're gonna talk about picking the right markets for your particular niche that you're trying to get into. Remember, don't focus on one market, because you're gonna be in big trouble. And we're gonna talk about how to promote and market your business so it can take off. There's so many dynamics to running a successful business, and you need to learn these things. And these are some of the things I had to learn the hard way, guys. Schedule time. Talk to you soon. Serious people only. Bless.